Make for the exit. An apex! Get down!
Ella, look out! I don't have the gun!
Not so fast.
Target the breacher! Now's our chance!
Nomad, blow the door! Cover me!
Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six Extraction was originally called Rainbow Six Quarantine when it was first announced in 2019, but for somewhat obvious reasons they decided to change the name. Extraction is an upcoming squad-based tactical shooter due to be released soon on the 20th of January. The inspiration for the spin-off came from a limited time event in Rainbow Six Siege, Outbreak, which introduced the Operation Chimera expansion. The Outbreak event featured objectives where teams of 3 operators fought off the Chimera parasite that landed on Earth. People who came into contact with it became infected with the organism, and over time would heavily mutate and become extremely hostile. Given the Outbreak event, there is a little bit of story we can catch up on, plus run over a few of the important details that we already know about the game before it releases later this month. The origins of the Chimera parasite are unknown, but sometime during the Soviet era it was discovered by the Russians, who put it on board a capsule and fired it out into space. Early February 2018, the capsule returned to Earth. It crashed near Truth or Consequences, New Mexico. Boyd Brooks, a local of TLC, saw a meteorite fall from the sky one night and decided to investigate. Discovering the capsule at the site, he decided to load it onto his truck and take it back to his salvage yard, where he would attempt to sell it online. However, unbeknownst to him at the time, this would lead to him becoming the first individual to be infected with the Chimera parasite. And so 3 days after finding the capsule, Brooks found himself making his way to the Sierra County Hospital, as by this time, he now had a number of red spikes protruding from all over his body. By this stage, the parasite had now spread to a number of others, and medical personnel were frantically attempting to treat the infected, whose numbers were quickly increasing and starting to overwhelm the hospital. One of the doctors, Ellen McIntosh, the chief of radiation oncology at Sierra County Hospital, recognized Brooks when he entered the waiting room. But just before she could start helping in his care, his eyes suddenly turned red. Over the following 7 days, McIntosh managed to get a blood sample from Brooks, and had begun working on a potential cure for the parasite outbreak. However, by now, the majority of the town's population had become infected, and it was also around this time that those infected by the parasite were given the name roaches. Up until now, government officials had been successful in preventing the parasite from leaving the region. Unfortunately, things were about to take a turn for the worst. Back in the hospital, McIntosh suddenly found herself surrounded by the infected, but now they were acting differently. Aggressive. Fortunately, before she was attacked by one of her infected patients, she managed to barricade herself into the hospital lab. The police and National Guard responded, but with everything they tried, the parasite would evolve, and a number of different types of roaches met them in the field. Some of them fired projectiles, while there were others that had a hardened shell capable of withstanding heavy gunfire and explosives. Team Rainbow was ordered to enter the town to help prevent the government from using a nuclear weapon to cleanse the area. Rainbow was able to perform a series of surgical strikes on nests. These strikes were fast and brutal, and the parasite was unable to respond. They located and destroyed several key nests. They also became aware of Dr. McIntosh and her research, and made it a part of their objective to extract her to help put an end to the outbreak. Although it was considered too dangerous, they were running out of options and time. Rainbow was successful in fighting through the hospital and rescuing Dr. McIntosh. They then retrieved the capsule from Brooks' yard, while McIntosh continued working on the cure. Several years after the initial outbreak in New Mexico, the Chimera parasite has resurfaced and has now spread to various areas across the United States. Fortunately, this time, Team Rainbow are a little more prepared. Following the original outbreak, a new division was established, the Rainbow Exogenous Analysis and Containment Team, or REACT for short. For years, they have had hundreds of scientists studying the parasite and the best way of containing it. However, the parasite has also continued to evolve. It has adapted to Earth and now no longer requires a host. These organisms are called archaeans, and they come in a number of different variations. Team Rainbow needs to dive into each of these new areas to gather more information about the parasite and find a way to stop it. Rainbow Six Extraction will feature 18 of the operators in Siege, including Tachanka, Lion, Doc. Well, I'm not going to read them all out, they're on screen. Most of the operators will have the same abilities they have in Siege. In fact, the operators were selected based on how well their abilities would fit into this new type of gameplay. The easiest way to describe Extraction's gameplay is to think of a cross between Left 4 Dead and Rainbow Six Siege. The operators still feel the same, but instead you're shooting parasitic aliens rather than other operators. Similar to the zombies in Left 4 Dead, the aliens have a number of different classes and abilities. Currently there is co-op multiplayer and single-player modes. Players will be completing objectives across 3 different subzones. Maps are split into 4 distinct regions: New York City, San Francisco, Alaska, and Truth or Consequences. The objectives that are received are randomly assigned from a list of 13 different tasks. This basically means that it will be very unlikely to come across the same mission and location twice. At the end of each objective, you can choose to extract and end the match, or you can continue on to the second round and then third for greater rewards. However, with each round, it will get progressively harder, and if your team wipes, you'll lose everything. What creates a more tactical feel to the game over other shooters is that supplies are limited, health doesn't regenerate, and injuries and deaths will carry over to each round, so working as a team is a must. Rainbow Six Extraction will be launching on all the usual platforms: Xbox, PlayStation, and PC. The game will also have full crossplay, cross-save, and cross-progression over all platforms. Also, anyone who purchases the game can invite 2 friends to play for free for up to 2 weeks. Admittedly, when I first saw the gameplay when it was first announced, I wasn't all that interested, but the more I've been looking into it, the more potential I can see. I loved my time in Siege, though I certainly haven't invested enough time to be truly competitive at it, so this could be a nice spin-off, even if it is a bit weird to see alien/zombie type enemies in a Tom Clancy game. I certainly don't think this is for the majority of the hardcore Siege fans, but I think this will help bring more people to the title, like those who may have been put off by the steep learning curve, or, as some people put it, a learning brick wall. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. Cheers!